Today we are going to get into something that I think a lot of us have felt, but maybe don't really have a name for. We're talking about the freeze response and why, sometimes, your brain just shuts down.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You ever have that feeling where you're just staring at something you need to do, you know exactly what the first step is, you know what the second step is, but you just can't? You physically feel unable to start, like you're just glued in place.
Yeah, if that is ringing any bells, you're in the right place. We're going to start right there with that very specific, very frustrating feeling. We're calling it that stuck feeling, you know? That whole paradox of knowing exactly what to do, but not doing it. Think about it like this. Your mind has the perfect map, right? It's like a GPS giving you crystal clear turn-by-turn directions. But your body? That's the car. And for some reason, the engine just won't turn over. Every little action, every potential movement just feels incredibly heavy, like it's going to cost you way too much energy to even try. And here's where it gets really tricky. The problem starts to pile on. So you have the original task. That's threat number one. But then the shutdown itself, that becomes a second threat. While you're frozen, the clock is ticking, the deadlines are creeping closer. And this wave of shame starts to build up. It just layers more and more stress right on top of the original problem. So what if, and this is a big what if this has nothing to do with you being lazy or unmotivated or undisciplined? This next part is really the core of what we're talking about today. We're going to completely reframe this whole thing. This isn't some flaw in your character. It's a state of your biology. And that's the key. Let this one sink in for a second. The problem isn't that you don't have enough information. You don't need another to-do list. You don't need a better plan. The problem is the actual physical, physiological state that your brain and your body are in at that moment. So what on earth is this state we keep mentioning? Well, to get it, we've got to look under the hood, inside the brain's wiring. We need to understand this protective shutdown that scientists call the freeze response. So here's the official definition. The freeze response is a totally involuntary stress reaction. It happens when your brain sees a threat that feels way too big to either fight or run away from. So what does it do? It goes into a protective shutdown. And here's the kicker. That threat can be a giant looming deadline just as easily as it can be, a lion. To your ancient primal brain, the fear of failing or being judged can feel just as catastrophic as a real physical danger. We've all heard of fight or flight, right? That's the high energy response. Your heart's pounding, adrenaline is coursing through you, you're ready for action. Well, freeze is the total opposite. It's a low energy shutdown. The goal isn't to take on the threat or run from it. The goal is to become perfectly still, to hide, to go unnoticed, and basically just wait for the danger to pass. And when this response kicks in, some very specific things happen. First, your attention gets super narrow. You can only focus on the threat. Second, language gets harder to access. That's why it can be so tough to even explain what's wrong when you're in it. And most importantly, like we said, simple physical actions start to feel impossibly difficult. See, these aren't just random frustrations. They are literal signals from your nervous system. And if you can learn to read them, you can start to do something about it. Okay, so that's the science. We get the what and the why. Now let's talk about the how. How do we actually get out of this state? This next part is a really practical 3-step guide to gently unfreeze your system and start moving again. But before we jump into the steps, there's a really important mindset shift we need to make. The goal here is not to crush your emotions or become some kind of robot. It's about giving your brain better, safer data so it can finally recognize that, hey, the threat level has gone down. All right, here they are, the 3 steps. Step 1, lower your physiological load. Don't try to force yourself to do some complex thing when your system is in total shutdown. Instead, do something super simple to signal safety to your body. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Get up and walk around the room for 60 seconds. This is not procrastination, okay? It is a strategic move to tell your nervous system, hey, we're safe. The immediate threat is over. Step 2, trade giant tasks for tiny starts. The thought of writing that whole report is overwhelming, right? It's what keeps you frozen. So you have to shrink the task until it's almost laughably small. The goal is not to finish anything. The goal is just to break the inertia. Think, I'm just going to open the document, or I'll just write 1 sentence. That tiny, tiny bit of forward momentum is incredibly powerful. And third, replace self-attack with recognition. The second you notice you're frozen, instead of beating yourself up, just name it.
Just say to yourself, okay, this is a freeze state. I'm in a freeze state right now. That simple act of just recognizing it creates a little bit of distance. It separates you from the state, and that's the first step to changing it.
And that brings us to our last idea, and honestly, it might be the most powerful one of all. It's about shifting from seeing this as some negative loop you're trapped in to seeing it as a skill you can actually develop. It is all about changing that story you tell yourself.
This is the big transformation right here. When you understand the biology behind this, you can stop blaming yourself. You can stop calling yourself lazy or irrational or whatever else. You start to see the pattern for what it is, a biological loop. And you can start treating your ability to get out of it like any other skill, something you can practice and something you can absolutely get better at. So to wrap this all up, I'm just going to leave you with a question to carry with you. The next time you feel it, that paralysis, that stuck feeling, what's one tiny, almost ridiculously easy movement you can try? What's one small action you can take to give your brain a little new data and just begin to thaw the freeze?